Hello, everyone. First and foremost, thanks for your patience with me. I know it's been a month or so since my last release, and if this channel is going to continue to grow, I need to be more active. I've got a plan for that going forward that will hopefully hold me to a more consistent posting schedule. I've been hard at work writing to hopefully get a little ahead of myself, so let's jump in to see what I've been working on. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone at this point. I love Luanne Platter. Her, Dale, Min, and Boomhauer all take turns sharing who my current favorite character is. That being said, there is a character element of Luanne that is largely ignored throughout the course of the series, but there are many instances of this element being exploited. Luanne is a pro-level car mechanic. I may even argue that she is the most skilled car mechanic of all of the Alley Gang. She is generally trusted with incredibly in-depth vehicle repairs, and trusted so much so that sometimes Hank will even leave her alone to do the work. Like in Crack Bass, where Hank's truck is completely taken apart to be searched for drugs, and Luanne is tasked with putting the entire thing back together. Ironically, this episode shows off this skill by completely ignoring this storyline. Hank's truck is out of commission to the point where he has to go get a rental. There is a mention about Luanne ordering the truck schematic, and then that's about it. Hank carries the load for the rest of the story, and by the next episode he is back to driving his truck, implying that Luanne reassembled the entire vehicle by herself. And this is just one instance. Let's take a look at Season 1's Shins of the Father. Luanne's appearance in this episode is obviously overshadowed by Cotton's first non-flashback appearance. It gets kind of lost that Luanne is the one that diagnoses the issue with Cotton's car and why it wouldn't start, and she fixes it. Do you remember why Cotton's car wouldn't start? It was the solenoid plunger. I couldn't go work at an auto garage, but I know enough to change brakes, rotors, change oil, some basic car maintenance procedures, but I could not tell you if a solenoid plunger is a real thing or not. Are those really located in vehicles? Don't know. You know who fixed it though? Luanne. So where did this ability come from? Why wasn't it explored further? Why was it just an implied talent that she had that no one questioned? Why was she in hair school? Let's dig a little bit to get some answers here. So I'm going to look at George Lucas for a minute. I am a huge Star Wars fan. At least Star Wars up to circa 2007-ish. Part of the brilliance of the original trilogy, at least from a storytelling standpoint, was that Lucas didn't want to have to explain every aspect of the backstory. Let me be clear, he was allowed to do this because in 1977 there was nothing established in universe. Lucas didn't want to have to explain why the war started, for example, because he wanted to portray the particular slice of time in that universe. He didn't want to bog the entire story down with heavy exposition and have to explain every last little detail. That's partly why the original trilogy is so satisfying. There isn't any backstory, so you can kind of create the situations that led to what we were seeing. Power of imagination prevails. Things started getting a little hairy for Lucas when he started adding the exposition that was missing from the OT. It made the story convoluted, especially when considering some of the choices he made to explain why certain characters feel certain ways about certain things. I think there is a leap of faith that all creators take when introducing us to the world they are presenting. In terms of King of the Hill, Judge had to give out the character some established traits as the episodes first started rolling out. After all, Season 1, Episode 1 isn't just a collection of babies with clean hard drives and no preconceived notions. So in this way, it is natural to give a character some talents that they acquired off-screen prior to us being let into their world. Luanne is a college-aged young woman. Of course there are going to be things that she is good at that we have no perception of why. But the curious thing to me is that she isn't just good, she's great. Hank hardly trusts Khan to cook a hamburger right, and we are expected to believe that he trusts Luanne with his truck to completely rebuild it. Her skill is so good that you would think it had to have been brought up in the writer room. Why is she so good at this? I think the most probable answer as to why the writers chose to not give us an answer is because it adds an element of implied humor. Luanne is shown to be fairly, dense about certain things throughout the course of the series. It's an ironic screw the audience, borrowing this term from my buddy the Real Jims, kind of joke that gives her this extreme ability, but not have anyone talk about how good she is at this craft. I love this little bit of depth that it is given to Luanne without any explanation. You know, the writers do this a couple times in the series, especially earlier on. There are certain jokes that just exist with zero explanation. Chuck Mangione has a presence in the entire series, and we as viewers are just supposed to accept that this is a normal part of living in Arlen. Those gags add a richness to the series. It gives the feeling that the town, the characters, and the situations are a lot more authentic. It's not weird that Luanne is a skilled mechanic. We're just making it that way. So after analyzing why the writers didn't give her the backstory on this particular scenario, let's kill the established joke and hypothesize why she is so good at fixing cars. After all, what good is a joke if we are not allowed to pick it apart and beat it to death? Do we think she learned this skill from Hank? It seems somewhat plausible. Hank is handy, the guys in the alley are handy, it is shown that the four of them regularly work on Hank's truck and other projects. Could it be that Hank and the guys taught her what they know and she just possesses all the knowledge of the collected alley gang? Although I think this is plausible, I don't think it's probable. If Luanne is this skillful of a mechanic just because she acquired Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer's skills, I am not sure Hank would be so trusting of her to work on his truck. Hank would most likely tell you that he is a more competent mechanic than Bill and Dale, so their skill set being taught to Luanne wouldn't be enough to let Hank trust her to work on his truck by herself. Boomhauer has shown his fondness of cars and his ability to work on them throughout the course of the series. In fact, he may rival Hank in what he knows about cars, though Hank probably has a pretty good handle on how much Boomhauer knows, and I am not sure Boomhauer would have the knowledge needed to teach Luanne, at least to the expert level mechanic that she shows to be earlier in the series. I think that this means that Luanne acquired this knowledge by being steeped in it daily. She had to be brought up in an environment where cars were constantly being worked on, and not just oil changes, but really in-depth car work. To me, this means that Luanne learned these skills from her parents. Honestly, we don't know a ton about Luanne's parents as a collective, but I think it is fair to say that we know more about her mother, Leanne, than her father, Hoyt. I'm not sure she would have learned this skill from Leanne. Leanne is shown to be an exotic dancer with a very brash attitude who likes to try and control and extort men, namely Bill. Her backstory is fairly put together. She met Hoyt at his bachelor party. She was the entertainment. See, Hoyt was apparently set to marry a pharmacist. Using my Sherlock Holmes hat, I am to deduce from these facts that if Hoyt had a relationship with someone who was disciplined enough to finish schooling to become a pharmacist, that probably means that she, assumedly, would put pressure on him to at least have his life somewhat put together. We know what Leanne was doing before she met Luanne's father. She was stripping. Not that there is anything wrong with that. We have zero idea what Hoyt was doing prior to leaving his then-fiancée and eloping with Leanne. This is why I am proposing that prior to his life completely falling apart, Hoyt was an incredibly skilled car mechanic. My best guess is that after Luanne was born, and before he and Leanne found themselves in prison, maybe Hoyt was really trying to keep things together. Maybe that's how he was able to afford some semblance of an income. I would like to think that he offered deeply discounted auto services and would perform all of the services right at their trailer in Shiny Pines. Luanne, being a child and home, would often be playing outside by her father who was fixing cars. Eventually one thing led to another, and he would enlist her to help during his jobs. In this way, I think that her ability is almost second nature. No one really questions it because she absorbed all the skill as an impressionable kid, and it's just something she knows. If Hoyt fixed cars up until he got arrested at the beginning of the series, that means Luanne would have had roughly 18 years of being around an established mechanic, not to mention somewhere between 13 and 16 years of actively helping out. I know this is something that gets kind of forgotten about later in the series, but every time I am rewatching the initial couple of seasons, it always blows my mind just how competent she is. I know this is not really doing her skills justice, but the creators made a point to show her working on a car during the opening credits. Albeit she's just changing a tire, but for her to be given that assignment during the credits speaks a lot to how the writers wanted us to perceive her ability. They put her in a spot in the credits where she feels most comfortable, just as Dale, Bill, Boomhauer, and Hank are shown in the alley. So what do you guys think? Does my explanation of where Luanne's skill come from make any sense? Let me know what you think down below. As always, it would mean a ton to me if you like and subscribe and share this video. Don't forget to give me a follow on my Twitter. The handle is the same as here, @YetiofTheHill. We'll talk soon, but for now that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.